Live. Okay, hello everybody. This is Dr. Jasper Thompson. I am at Better Life Chiropractic. If you want to visit us, betterlifechiropractic.ca, that's our website. I am here with David Antebi today, and I'm really excited about this interview because David is a former pharmacist actually, and he has transitioned into being a holistic practitioner. So very excited about this and very excited to kind of dive in and find out a little bit about what he does and maybe help you to understand what he does. So let's start out with asking you, when did you move to Midland? How long have you been here and where are you from? Just tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so I moved here with my wife Janet in 2011, and we moved from North Bay, and I had moved deliberately because I had a job offer in Midland.
Okay.
And it seemed like a good idea. I took
a fun
town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and where are you from originally? Because I know you kind of have a cool background.
I am from Scotland.
Scotland. Can you hear that accent coming out?
Time.
Yeah. So when did you move here from Scotland?
In 1986.
Okay.
Yes.
So been here quite a few years.
Yeah, I came on a whim, and I basically decided I'd come to North America, never been here before.
Wow.
So I took a 6-week travel option on a airline, and put the pin in the map, and wherever it landed, I went.
Wow.
So I went all over North America, the States. Eventually, I had ended up in Ontario, and the pin landed in Barrie, oddly enough.
Wow.
So I trekked up there, and the rest is history.
The rest is history. Very, very cool. Well, we love having you here. We're excited because you're located almost right across from us. You're at, I think, 231 King Street, is that right?
231, exactly.
So 231 King Street if you're interested in this. But let's go a little bit farther. So first of all, you've got to tell us, what made you decide to stop being a pharmacist and become a holistic practitioner?
Good question. So I worked for so many years between hospital pharmacy and retail pharmacy. I had my own stores, and eventually I became a bit burnt out. So then what happened was I landed in a situation where that being burned out made me a bit sick. I eventually had an aneurysm in my heart.
Wow.
And so but all the time I was realizing that there was some fundamental issue, a moral issue that I didn't cope with very well, and that was to do with the side effects and the effects of drugs. Not to say that they're bad, but they're not necessarily discernibly used or used with proper discrimination as to what's good for people and what's bad.
Right.
And I see too many people having too many drugs, and they ended up, when somebody comes along and they've got upwards of 10 or even 16 drugs, and there's a fundamental flaw from what I can see, because you can see the interaction between two drugs, because that's reported in the books, but when you see an interaction between any more than two, well, there's no research done on any more than two drugs. So drug A can react with B, drug A can react with C, but you don't know how A, B, and C all mix together. It's like a soup in there, biochemical soup.
And when we're looking at 16, now it's just interacting.
It's not scientific. It becomes an art, and I don't mind if you're presented as an art, but it's not presented as an art. It's presented as a science, and that's actually not true.
Yeah, unfortunately, it could be 5 different doctors throughout that have prescribed these different things that now they're taking, right?
Not only that, but at different times in the life they're given it. So if at the age of 40 they're given one drug, perhaps an antidepressant, a blood pressure pill, age 50, and so on.
Wow.
By the time you add on to the soup, your liver starts to depreciate naturally at the age of about 65, 70, 75, 80. So then when you start to understand the limitation of all those drugs, is in the context of how old you are and what other conditions you have. If you're mentally astute and you're working as one thing, and then you move into retirement, your body chemistry completely changes. And so the context is you're taking the same drug though every time as you were before, but
for years and years, right?
All of a sudden they're not relevant as they were before.
Wow.
So it's
something that I think a lot of people don't think often about, right? We're just doing it because our doctor told us to do it, and we're not really thinking too much about this.
And what I also found, if I can say, Jasper, is we're advised, for example, even if you go to a health food store or a supplement store, they'll say you need to take something once a day. Now, it amazes me, given how efficient our bodies are at storing what we put into them, and how our liver deals with it, our kidneys do, how our tissues absorb the nutrients, whichever we give them. But the reality is that it's not even a vitamin. You don't need to take it once a day. You can take it once every 2 or 3 days, or even 4 days, and you still get enough from it. So we've only adopted the once a day thing from the pharmaceutical industry because at least you know you don't forget them, and that's the thing. So it's our brains that are the biggest limitation.
Wow, so just because we want it in a habit, we're doing it this way.
That's right.
Okay, so then let's tell everybody, we've kind of done a bit of a deep dive there. What is it that you do? How can you help, somebody who is taking 16 medications, for example?
Well, it's tough without going into each individual circumstance, because, as I mentioned, the age is important. As I mentioned, the other conditions, concomitant conditions. The reason why the drug was prescribed in the first place may no longer be there. For example, just because you're prescribed an antidepressant, it doesn't necessarily, even though you may be depressed at the time, or you may feel you need it at the time, it still doesn't justify continuous for the rest of your life, because, as I say, everything's in the context of change, and we all do change, and thank goodness too. And so, say you get over your depression, but the doctor still prescribes the drug. And the problem with that is that the drugs, a lot of the drugs themselves, are addictive in nature.
Right.
So, Jasper, when you actually are given a drug, and say again an antidepressant, say it's an SSRI drug, perhaps Cipralex. So you stop the drug, but your brain cells are now screaming for more.
Wow.
And so you think you're still depressed, but the reality is you're only missing, your brain cells are missing the drug. So you need to use a different strategy. You need to, sometimes what we do is we cut them in half, and then cut them in quarter, and this is a common strategy. Sometimes what we do is, because of the limitation in the size of the dose, or the form of the dose, we actually have to empty a capsule into a glass of orange juice. Some of them are soluble orange juice. Mix it up, drink half of it, and then put the other half in the fridge. And that way you can incrementally change the dose, so you can drink a little bit less and a little bit less. But sometimes it can take many years to come off one drug. So you can't stop a lot of drugs all at once because it's asking for trouble. Now, some people do, and it's an unfortunate reality that some people are genetically more predisposed to have more problems. Some people can just fly off drugs no problem and don't have any side effects.
So essentially what you're saying is everybody's different.
Absolutely, and that's why I insist in this holistic area to know in the pharmacy world what it is that how people are likely to react. Now, to an extent, what we can do is we can do testing to see the genetic makeup of the person, to see which genes they've adopted or they have been passed, and those genes will influence whether or not they're likely to be have a hard time coming off the drug. Yeah.
So that's something that you can help them with, right? Is if
Absolutely.
somebody's interested in this, obviously you have quite a bit of knowledge about this, and helping them to understand how they react and how they respond to these different things, and you can help them with that, which is fantastic. I'm very excited about that people have that opportunity and that option with you.
Yeah.
So thank you. That's a great insight for, I think, everybody.
Yes.
Let me ask you a couple of fun questions. Let me just check my notes here. Okay, so I think we've gone over where we can find you, which is at 231 King Street. Do you have any other area that they can contact you? I know we've got your phone number on here already. Are those the two best ways to get in
The two
contact?
you can contact me on a cell phone, and that's probably a good thing. Can I give my cell phone number?
Yep.
705-446-6030.
All right, so there you go. That's a direct line.
That's a direct line, yes, if anybody wants to call. So the other thing is for people to realize, the more people that come and see me, the better my pool of information is. So if I have 100 people and I'm trying to figure out how people are best to come off this drug, we don't have a lot of good solid research, because the pharmaceutical industry doesn't research coming off drugs. They only research how to come on drugs for obvious reasons. And so we need to have a bigger pool to figure out how best to wean off the drugs.
Right,
and
so they can help you to help them.
Exactly, and not only them, but the future generations.
Right,
because it's all about me learning to teach other people and to get more better results.
All right, so let's ask a fun question
now.
You know, the whole reason that I'm doing this series is that I want to really uplift our community, right?
Yeah.
Our local businesses that are, you know, we really are a very, you know, tight-knit group. I think our cameraman's got a phone over there. That's right. We are a tight-knit community here in Midland. I'm sure you've realized that. I know I've realized that. And we really want to uplift all the small businesses, the local businesses.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, what is your favorite place here in Midland that is a local business that you just think is amazing? For example, I'll give you an example. My favorite is Grounded. I am a coffee drinker. I love Grounded. I will promote them forever. I love them. So what would it be for you?
So there's a little business down the road here. It's called Hidden Agenda.
Hidden Agenda.
Hidden Agenda is right where the old what do you call it? YMCA building.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And in there is very, very high tech, but not high tech. It's some interesting stuff. They have what's called a salt cave.
Oh, wow.
They have one of them where you go in there and there's a fine mist of salt. And it's a meditative environment. People actually do meditations there.
Okay.
They do open mic, if you entertainment. They do art lessons and everything like that.
Very cool.
And they have a cafeteria there too.
Wow, so they're kind of doing lots.
Really awfully cool there. Yeah.
Okay, so what was the name of that place?
It's Hidden Agenda.
Hidden Agenda. All right, so everybody's got to look up Hidden Agenda. Okay, so before we close, I just want to acknowledge you for a minute and just say, you know, I'm just so impressed with your courage, because this is not an easy thing. I can't imagine that it would have been easy to go from being a pharmacist to doing everything natural. You know, in that industry, I can imagine financially everything would have been set up for you long term, and you had to really step out of the box to follow your heart and your dreams and what you truly believe. And you know, I'm just so excited for our community to have somebody like you here.
Thank you.
So I highly recommend everybody, if this is interesting to you, if this interests you, if you know somebody who may be able to be helped by David, please go and see him. He knows so much, it is crazy. And he will help you for sure. So the last thing I want to ask you before we stop is, what is your definition of living your best life?
Well, I think we see so many people. A lot of the supplements we have here are addressing stress in the immune system, and they're obviously linked together. So I think we want to live a life which is not it's not incriminating, or it's not restricting our sense of ourselves. We need to be present and representing ourselves as who we are, not who we think we are or who we think other people want us to be. That, I think, is important.
Yeah, be you.
Be you.
I love that. Absolutely love that. All right, everybody, this has been David Antebi, and you've got all of our stuff in the description below, so you can look him up, phone numbers, everything. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you, David, for being here.
And thank you very much.